Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. One of the great parts of the college football season is that no matter how bad last week was, there's another game on Saturday. Purdue has the opportunity to rebound from a poor performance as it takes a Thursday afternoon flight to Corvallis to take on Oregon State in a rather unusual non-conference tilt to close out non-league play. We'll preview this one on the show today after some final thoughts from that Notre Dame debacle before answering your questions to close this thing out. Lots to get to. Let's dive on in. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. You can always send in questions for the show there. You can also email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. But be sure you're following along on Twitter for all of my thoughts during the game on Saturday. First away game of the year, always some good conversation there. And be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. Lots of season still to get to. You're going to want to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. I rewatched the Purdue versus Notre Dame game, so you don't have to. I'll spare you the liberty of that one. Obviously, we did the full reaction show on Sunday. Had lots of thoughts from that game. How could you not? A few things that I missed on, and thank you. Someone tweeted it to me that I forgot to mention. Purdue played its entire starters, or all of its starters, the entire game against Notre Dame. I don't know how I forgot to bring that up because that was a major storyline. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Now, Ryan Walters was asked about it in the post-game presser, so his answer was, clearly we need the reps, and there's no better time than the present to get these reps in. Sure, I don't disagree with that line of thinking necessarily, but you look at it. When I rewatched this, I paid attention. On Purdue's first snap of the fourth quarter, Hudson Card got lit up. You had Dylan Thieneman returning a punt in the fourth quarter. I think it was 52-7 at that point. I understand the thought of getting more reps. And I understand if you want to go all old school and say, well, you guys created this mess, so you're going to sit in it. Okay, I get it. But what if a key player gets hurt? What if that hit to Hudson Card knocked him out for some time? What if Dylan Thieneman gets hit on a punt return? I don't have a problem with these guys, with Thieneman returning punts in a close game, or if it's a little more manageable, keep Card out there. That's fine. But at 52-7, Purdue doesn't seem to have gotten anyone hurt, and that's very fortunate. But I think that was a little bit foolish. I don't think there was a whole lot of rationale behind that. Yeah, I don't get it. I do understand where Ryan Walters is coming from there, but to me, the risks far outweigh the rewards. And we're looking at this, after a month of fall camp where you're extremely precautious. Guys getting veteran days off of camp, guys, wearing non-contact jerseys at quarterback. Limited contact early on in camp, all these precautions, I feel like you could have taken one more when the game was so clearly out of reach that there was nothing you could do to make that result a non-embarrassment. That's how bad that game got. So I don't get it. One thing that stood out, Notre Dame's first drive, Notre Dame goes down and scores in 5 plays. But Purdue was substituting multiple players on defense before every snap, basically. A ton of rotation that I was a little surprised to see. It was a hot day, so I'll give you that. You want to get fresh legs in there. Purdue rotated a ton, and it felt like Notre Dame was playing chess with its pre-snap motion. Purdue's bringing in new guys to try to match personnel and try to get advantages. And Notre Dame really negated a lot of that with pre-snap motion. A really good day for Keelan Crimmins punting the football. I know that's not, it's almost a backhanded compliment, right? That your punter was the best player of the game. Purdue's punt team was not good, though. Purdue got really fortunate that no punts of Keelan Crimmins were blocked. That's something you got to clean up. That's the type of stuff that a really shrewd, really good coaching staff will pay attention to week over week, and they're going to find a way to get to one. Purdue has to clean that up in the punting game. This is not going to be a team that can afford special teams mistakes. We saw how costly those were last year. Can't have them this year. It's been pretty well documented. It was a rough day for Dylan Thieneman. I thought, really, for all of Purdue's starters behind the line of scrimmage, Kydron Jenkins, Antonio Stevens, Dylan Thieneman, Teron Grant, Kendrick Breedlove, it was a rough day for all those guys. It was just a really rough day. There's not much else to say. For the tackling, for the angles, just a really, really poor day for Purdue. And that kind of comes back to something I heard is, you guys probably know, I listen to a lot of college football stuff. I listen to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of articles. And Bud Elliott from CBS Sports over on Cover 3 is someone I really respect in the analysis world. He knows the sport pretty well in terms of, coaches and what they want to do, and obviously what has been successful in all of that with a recruiting background. He was really critical of Purdue defensively after Saturday's game. He pointed out that Purdue doesn't have the talent to run what it wants to run on defense. And right now, I think it's really hard to disagree with that assessment. Purdue does not have the dominant defensive line that you want to see. Purdue doesn't have, we don't think, the lockdown secondary. Now, we don't know anything about the secondary because no one's really thrown the ball on Purdue yet. But it's a really aggressive scheme, and Purdue is more or less married to that. When you hired Ryan Walters, you hired that defense. I don't know if you can move off of it. I don't know if you can move off of it mid-season. I don't know what you have a better ability to run. It's interesting, though. And on the flip side, on offense, the line just really limits things. Not really to Bud, but, the line was just so limiting. There's not a lot of great stuff schemed open in the passing game. I think that's something you need to find a better way to do, to get guys open, to create space, because right now it's not happening. As I kind of said, Teron Grant had a rough day, kind of a welcome to college day, if you ask me. The speed of the game seemed to get to him a little bit. Guy's a really talented player. That happens when you have freshmen out there. And then the last thing that stood out, I watched the game live, so I didn't have the broadcast on. Purdue has a negative 61-point differential in the first quarter, dating back to the start of 2023. That's the worst in the nation under Ryan Walters' tenure. That's not a great reflection on a number of things. For starters, it's not a good reflection of Purdue's ability to, have some wrinkles week to week, mix things up a little bit. I don't think that's a great reflection of that. I don't think it's a great reflection of being hard to prepare for. That's tough. That's a really tough stat to deal with. Obviously you've lost 5 of 14 games in that, or 5 out of 14 games. You're 5-9 in that time span. But to be the worst in the nation, that's rough. That's something I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on moving forward too, now that I'm aware of that stat, because that's really bad. But look, it was just a terrible day for Purdue. You move on, you head to Oregon State. When this series was scheduled, it was like a week after the Brom to Tennessee watch had expired in 2017, after we determined that Brom was going to stay at Purdue. Who could have guessed that Oregon State would no longer be a power conference opponent, that the Pac-12 would have 2 teams left right now, It's crazy. The last 12 months for Oregon State fans have just been a whirlwind. Or I guess a little more than 12 months, because you had the conference blow up. Oregon State won 8 games last year and was in every regular season week ranked in the AP poll. It loses Jonathan Smith and Aiden Childs to Michigan State. It is nuts. I feel for Oregon State. I really do. The biggest losers of realignment. Now you do have the Pac-12 adding some Mountain West schools. That's going to go into effect. But, man, rough stuff. This is the return game of a home and home, as you'll remember. Purdue opened up the 2021 season, taking down Oregon State 30-21 in Ross-Ade Stadium. Big Payne Durham touchdown catch and run to win that thing. Look, so far for Oregon State, decent enough. Hard to complain if you're a Beaver fan. 38-15 win over Idaho State. 21-0 win at San Diego State. That's nice there. Last week got blown out by Oregon, but kind of is what it is. 49-14. I'm pretty high on what Oregon is. Oregon State is very transfer portal dependent. Over 40 players left via the portal after last season. Coaching change in the prominence of the program, not exactly a shock. A team that's that fresh, that's that new, is going to struggle to compete with Oregon. But when you look at this team, it's another one that really wants to run the ball. Purdue's kind of 3 for 3 now on run-heavy teams it's facing. 243 yards per game on the ground, just 169 through the air. 141 rush attempts, 76 pass attempts. So you're seeing, in terms of an attempt, it's almost 2-to-1 run to pass. More yards rushing by a substantial margin than passing. This is a team that really wants to run the ball. You've got a 1-2 punch with Anthony Hankerson and Jam Griffin. Both of those guys average over 90 yards per game. That could be slightly misleading. They both had over 150 against Idaho State. That's an FCS, but nonetheless, it's a good 1-2 punch. Over 6 yards per carry for Jam Griffin. Anthony Hankerson kind of took the bell cow status last week against Oregon, and this is another team with a running quarterback. Giovanni McCoy can run. He's only got 9 attempts so far this year, so he's not tucking and running like crazy, but over 6 yards per carry when he does so. Purdue is going to need to watch that. Again, I will note, it's early in the season, so with all of these stats, you have to take them for what they're worth. Some of those rushing stats are undoubtedly padded by playing an FCS team in the first week that Oregon State cruised to victory over. But this is a team that really wants to run the football. They can throw the ball. Giovanni McCoy is completing 2/3 of his passes, but under 7 yards per attempt, not really putting the ball in harm's way. He's very safe. No interceptions, just 2 touchdowns. It's not like we're gunslinging this thing out in Corvallis. It is a very controlled passing game. 2 receivers are getting the bulk of the targets, and then you look at running back after that. So it's a very controlled passing game. It's similar to what Purdue has game planned for in the last 2 games, I would think. Schematically, not really. They do different things, but it's another one that's not going to try to take the top off of you. As a whole, it's not a juggernaut offense. You've got an NFL guy at guard and Joshua Gray, but this is not a great offense. But if the defense can't stop the run, it's going to be effective. And that's a big question for Purdue, because last week Purdue could not stop the run to save its life. It will face a lesser offensive line this week. It won't face as talented of a rushing attack, but it's a major question. We haven't seen Purdue defend the pass really yet. Indiana State threw the ball just 10 times. Last week, Riley Leonard only put the ball in the air more than 5 yards downfield 5 times. And everything after that was kind of garbage time. Steve Angeli did do some nice things throwing the ball on Purdue, but I would like to see Oregon State throw the ball a little just so we can get a feel for what Purdue is defending the pass, because right now I still don't know. When Oregon State's on defense, there's not really much that stands out. Just 3 sacks on the year, but they have generated some pressure. 2 picks and a forced fumble. Only 9 tackles for loss in 3 games. That doesn't reflect incredibly well on the disruptiveness in the run game, but, we'll see. Nothing really sticks out, though. Kicker Everett Hayes for them. Just 1 for 4 on the year. He did not kick last year, but he kicked for them in 2021 and 2022. Mixed results, to say the least. This is an interesting little situation. Oregon State struggling to kick. Purdue has not attempted a field goal yet, and we're 1/6 of the way through the season. Going to be Spencer Porath. Is he ready to go when his number is called? We will see. Look, the line sits at 5.5 right now. Oregon State is favored. I really wonder what a hypothetical look ahead would have been in this game, because I doubt it would be so big before Purdue lost so badly last week. Initially, I thought this thing would be around a pick. It's moved in Oregon State's favor from what I expected. We'll see where it closes at. But when you lose 66-7, you're not really going to get the benefit of the doubt. Some possibly good news for Purdue on the injury front. Nyland Green was not completely ruled out this week. I don't know that I would expect him to play still, but he was not completely ruled out in the Monday press conference. Said it sounds like he's starting to run a little bit, returning from the foot injury. That would be a nice addition to this backfield. Again, we don't know a ton about the pass coverage, but he's supposed to be your top guy. Does not sound like C.J. Smith is ready to return yet. He's still dealing with the hamstring. And George Burren is going to miss some time with a hamstring as well. But look, all things considered, through 2 games, Purdue's pretty healthy. We'll knock on wood there that nothing happens, but Purdue's in pretty good shape from a health perspective. As you go into this game, it's an odd situation, but I think it can be advantageous for Purdue to just get out west and go play. Get out of West Lafayette. I know Ryan Walters wants to talk about the noise and, how Purdue's got to block out the noise and not hear the criticism, but that's impossible to a degree. The players hear it. It's impossible to avoid. You get to go out west, and if the locker room is in good shape, if the locker room is cohesive and still bought in, this could be a real positive. If not, then you're probably in trouble. But if you're hoping that this season can show improvement in the win-loss column, meaning that you get to 5-7 or better, this game is a must-win. Purdue has to have it to get to that point. I don't know that you can get to 6-6 with a loss here. Before the season, I would have told you Purdue has to be 1-2 in 2-1 in non-conference play to get to a bowl. Here's your chance. As bad as last week was, if you can win this game and you go into conference play at 2-1, that's right where you would have hoped to be. Now, conference play looks tough. Nebraska, Illinois, Indiana all look tougher than I would have thought. Wisconsin and Northwestern probably look a little easier. But with Nebraska looking tougher, God, if you lose this one and then you fall to Nebraska next week and you're heading into October with a 1-3 record, good luck. That's how you create fan apathy. And it's hard. That's a tough reality because there's, the players don't always deserve that, but it's hard to blame people. You're expected to win. So this is, if there's such thing as a must-win in September, this game is it. If you don't have the CW on your TV service, for example, I'm in Indianapolis. I have YouTube TV. I do not get the CW. Got an antenna. tweeted about it, got that all set up. Looks pretty sweet. $9 on Amazon. So, so far so good. Hopefully that can get me through Saturday so I can watch the game. Obviously, I won't be able to record the game, so see what I do for rewatch, but we'll be able to watch it at least. I have Purdue winning this game. I do. I'll take Purdue 28-27. I don't have a great feel for this game. I don't think Oregon State is all that good. I think Oregon State is respectable to the point where if Purdue doesn't play well, Purdue is going to lose. But the players in the locker room seem to really like Ryan Walters. Ryan Walters seems very, very focused on this. It's now or never. This is a huge, huge game. I think Purdue's going to take care of it, but if it doesn't, when's the next win? This is a massive one to keep fans engaged for another month or so. Give me Purdue to win it in a close one. I do not have a great feel for it. After the break, Q&A here on the way out. Look, September means a lot of things. We have the return of football. We have pumpkin-scented candles. Leaves are beginning to fall. And that weather, hopefully soon, will be starting to turn. It's also Life Insurance Awareness Month. Yes, it's a real thing. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, my biggest passion is ensuring that my clients have the proper amounts and types of life insurance. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me at jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. And let's make sure you and your family and your world are all properly protected. All right, getting into some Q&A here. First question, is Walter's seat getting hot? No, not yet. I guess it depends on what your definition of hot seat is. I don't see a way that Purdue is terminating Ryan Walters after this season. I would be stunned. I would be absolutely stunned. Purdue does not tend to be the most aggressive in terms of firing coaches. And I think Purdue really believed in Ryan Walters when it made this hire. I wouldn't expect it, no matter how bad it gets this season. Should it even be a conversation? Not yet. See what things look like in November. If it's a disaster, we'll talk then. I don't think it should be, completely an automatic no, but it would have to get really bad. We're not there yet. Which position group is biggest area of concern heading into this week? The offensive line is just astonishingly bad last week. This was supposed to be a good offensive line, or at least for Purdue standards, a good one. And it was just completely overmatched. Now, Notre Dame is good. Notre Dame is a tough defensive front, but you still have to play good ones. Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon. This isn't going to be easy. The offensive line, you have all your best guys in. You had your top five. You had your depth pieces. It's a show me week for the offensive line. And the same at linebacker with Kydron Jenkins. And then cylinder that they call the position Antonio Stevens can play. We've gotten too far with these out of normal names for positions, but those guys too. They've got to tackle. They've got to get to positions and make tackles. That's critically important against another good rushing attack. How much does the staff change after a loss like that, or do they just flush it and move on? It depends how much you believe in what you're doing, I think. And for Purdue, that's a lot. This staff really does believe in what it's doing schematically. It's pretty convicted. I would not expect dramatic changes. I don't know how much you could change dramatically when you're boarding a flight on Thursday to fly across the country. It would be minor tweaks, if anything. But also, if you're blowing it all up 2 games into the season, then you probably failed at putting this roster together. That's a pretty out loud admit admittment that you don't think you did a good job with this roster. So I don't expect Purdue to blow it all up yet. We'll see what things look like, but I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of change in terms of scheme or personnel or anything. How worried are you that the team will play tight or under pressure given the loss to Notre Dame and the difficult schedule ahead? Seems like a must-win game. As I kind of said earlier, if you're in good shape as a locker room and your team's bought in, I think heading out to Oregon could be a good thing just to get away from it all, get away from the scene of the crime of last week, go play a game out in Corvallis against a pretty evenly matched team. That's the thing with Purdue right now, is you've played a team that you were much better than, and you played a team you're much worse than. This is the first time where you're going to see more of an apples-to-apples comparison. Who's under more pressure to perform? Defensive coordinator Kevin Kane or offensive coordinator Graham Harrell? Without a doubt, it's Graham Harrell for two reasons. One, Kevin Kane doesn't call the defense. Ryan Walters took that over last year. So Walters is calling the defense. Walters is the one, linked to the headset for Kydron Jenkins with the communication, all of that. Now, Kevin Kane is linked with Walters at the hip. They came in together. They're going to run the same stuff. They're going to be lockstep in that. But for Graham Harrell, the offense has to show a pulse because it didn't last week. It was really rough. Under 200 yards of offense in a game is just miserable. Harrell's the highest paid coordinator in Purdue history. Now, that doesn't take a whole lot, but next year he's got $1 million lined up. This is a big couple of weeks here from Graham Harrell. Folks did not love what he did last year. I was more in the give him a pass crowd, but Purdue has to be better on offense this season. And then finally, what needs to be done against Oregon State to regain confidence? You've got to win. It sounds cliche, it sounds obvious, but you've got to win, and I think it would be all the better if it's not one of those win ugly types of games. There is no moral victory for keeping it close against what is more or less a Mountain West program at this point. This is a game you need to win. If you are taking the steps as a program that you want to, I think this is a really important win. You are a touchdown underdog almost, so I get that, but you have to find a way. Just to get out of there, win by one, whatever you have to do. If you can win that game, and especially if you play well and win, you're going to be feeling good about yourself flying back home. If not, that's going to be a really late night leading into a really weird week, and it is probably not going to be ideal. But, we can kind of revisit that after this game to see where Purdue's confidence is. But that's all I have for today. Thank you for those of you who spent time with me. I greatly appreciate it. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. We'll be live tweeting the game there. You can get your questions sent in for Sunday's reaction pod there at BoilersBeyond on Twitter or boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Send them over via email. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss a thing. And until Sunday, guys, good luck finding the CW. Get those antennas fired up, and I will talk to you then. Take care.